Welcome into Rounding the Bases.
Rounding the bases. Everybody knows Joe Goldberg. It's around the bases. Everybody knows Joe Goldberg. He's a man, goddamn.
Welcome into Rounding the Bases, the podcast about culture and leadership with a baseball twist, presented by Community America Credit Union. My name is Joel Goldberg. Quick shout out, as always, to my friends over at Chief of Staff Kansas City. I love spending time with them and talking to some of their clients about culture and leadership. They are a recruiting firm based in Kansas City, but clients all over the country. Chief of Staff Kansas City, making connections that matter. Check them out at chiefofstaffkc.com. Great people over there. With us today in the virtual studio is a guest who balances accounts in results, not excuses. An entrepreneurial leap of faith taken more than a decade ago was the catalyst for her transformation from Fortune 500 employee to a triple threat business boss. Marquita Miller-Joshua is the founder and president of 5-Star Tax and Business Solutions, best-selling author, and powerhouse motivational speaker. While she may be a masterful accountant by trade, her real business is advocating for others on a journey to their own success. A staunch proponent for acting with intention, Marquita has earned herself a reputation for inspiring entrepreneurs and audiences alike to commit. Whether that's to break barriers or eliminate excuses, she positions them to own their goals and take action for a result that's undeniably impactful. I'm one of those people that loves to get advice from Marquita Miller. I call her my friend. I should say Marquita Miller-Joshua, which always has a great ring to it, I think. I don't know. It's just got some balance in all of those syllables. Marquita, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Joel?
I'm doing good. I mean, I was a little nervous about attempting to pull you away during tax season because, who's got time if they're an accountant this time of year?
It's the kickoff time, but it's always time to share information. So.
Yeah, you're good with that. But the other thing is that you amaze me so often at how you balance it all. And then certainly we can get into that. But I know that when it is tax season, we're recording in late January for March, but when it is tax season, at least from the outside, it looks to me like you and any accountant CPA is 24/7. So how do you master it all?
Wow. I always say you can do everything. You just can't do it all at the same time. So it just takes proper planning on what day is what day are we doing certain things. And we have media day, we have speaking days, and you have preparation when you're in the grind. And so some weeks, absolutely, like you said, during that tax time period, it is crunch time. But I have a great team. That's a secret weapon. Great team. Some are employees, some are virtual assistants, some do other things. You have to learn to build your team so that you can have people that do the best at their part, and you can do the things that you're effective at. So
it's a great point. And, it takes time, right, to master all of that. One of the things that I love about your story, and I so often will feature stories like this on this podcast, is just this incredible pivot from one profession to another, almost like this enlightenment. And I guess that resonates for me just because, well, one, most people listening in an audience are always looking for something new, something different. Maybe they're not down the right path or they're stuck. The other is that I went through it. Now, I didn't give up my old career. Thank goodness I still have that baseball career. But I got the speaking bug. I found it. I understood that it wasn't just a side hustle. It was a full business. And suddenly you're sort of living in both of these worlds, and they collide in a good way. That's something I know that you could very much relate to. And you and I have a lot of friends that are full-time 24/7 speakers. You and I don't have the ability to do that yet. And I don't mean to speak for you, so correct me if you want, but I don't view it as a second job or a side hustle. This is what I do. And I think it's the same thing for you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like your whole pie. Everything that you're involved in is the whole pie. And so speaking is one of those ways it's a slice of your pie, but it still makes up the whole of what you do from that standpoint. And so, but that was a very good aha discovery some years ago. Because often we hear business owners and individuals talk about, oh, I was doing that for free. And I'm sure I started the way I'm sure you probably did as well. And then you discovered, whoa, I can get paid for this, like really get paid for this, well, get paid for this. So that was an aha moment. Then it becomes intentional. Then at that point, you're like, I got to give some real focus to this, some real attention to that, from that, without compromising the other things. But when you stay true to your circle, your main thing that you're doing is just another way to serve another audience through another vehicle. So
it's a great point too, because I think that so often we hear, well, it can't just be about the money. And I think that's true to an extent, but I also think we sometimes fail to put in, well, it's always about the money to an extent that, we're trying to provide for our families and trying to be compensated fairly for what we do, no matter what the profession. Now, that doesn't always come in the form of money. It can come in different forms. But my point is that early on, it was like what you said. Wait, somebody will pay me to do this? Well, and then you start to realize, wait a minute, there's a lot I can do to help other people. And I've really, at least in my case, I'm so addicted to that ability to get in front of a group and then afterwards find out that I helped with this, and this. And so it becomes less about the money. That sort of happens, right? That's the result, one of the results, but more of it is what you're able to do and following that passion, I guess, of hey, I have this ability to help and let me do that.
yeah, because when you think about all the connections that you make and the education that you have obtained and the resources that you've gained and the insight and wisdom, you package that up and it makes it, when you start to look at that, you're like, you know what? No, I should charge for it. It's not even my word for the year is stewardship. So it's not good stewardship for me to have exhausted and have these years of this information and to have experienced it and connected when I can take 45 minutes and give people strategies that can help them move forward. But that 45 minutes was 45 minutes of a presentation, but it was a lifetime of connections and insight and direction that will allow them to travel the road much easier. So it's worthy to be compensated for, but also it's enjoyable because you have traveled the road to get the results. You've seen others get the results. Now you're helping more to get it. And so you're right. I love it with, people always come afterwards and, now we're in the pandemic. And so it's a little bit, we're virtual most of the time, but there's still times they come up afterwards and they want to take selfies and they're excited. But where the real, I say light bulb moment is when someone emails you back or calls you and says, as a result of what you talked about, that gave me the courage and that gave me the roadmap to do the following things. And because of that, I've started a company, I've employed people. I mean, that right there, that makes it all worth it. It makes it all worth it because you're like, wow, that really landed on someone. It resonated with them. They used the strategies, they used the tip, and they got the results. So
it's the greatest feeling. It really is.
It really, really is. Because there's solutions in all of us. Every one of us have a solution for something that's a problem for someone else.
Oh, I love that. That's so good. That's so rich. And you're right. It's nice to get that immediate feedback, but the best feedback is the one later that was thought out, that was crafted in an email saying, thank you. You motivated me to do X, Y, and Z, and I would not have done that. So that's why we do what we do, among other reasons. So I want to go back because, and you and I got to know each other through the National Speakers Association, which I know that we're both very proud to be a part of. I'm a newer member, but we're both on board together.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You're a past president, so I wasn't around in this world when you were the president, or at least not the NSA world yet. But I know that you and I have connected. It's such a great organization. So that was just my little plug for our group locally and nationally, or regionally and nationally. But let's go back before your speaking days, before everything that you're doing now and that corporate world. How did that start for you? And then what motivated you to take that leap into something else?
Wow. So was working in the corporate world, as you made mention, in the accounting and the tax arena. And, I've heard someone say before, success leaves clues. And it's so very true, because the things that I was finding passionate about doing, it started growing and growing. And the next thing I know, people from outside outside of the corporate environment started saying, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? And I was like, wow, like when you hear something that's almost starting to be, it starts off as a whisper, but then it becomes a scream. You've got to stop and listen. And so that's how it began to evolve. And so certainly, people say, oh, I did it and did it fearless. No. I was very fearful when I first stepped out, leaving what was considered for me a full-time job that I had more money than month. So catch that. I had more money than month to go into a world that I wasn't for sure if there was going to be any money in the month. And so, but people were like, I love what you could do. You can help me. But I knew there comes a time when it's your moment. It's kind of like that feeling we talked about when you're helping someone, but there's also a time when it's your moment. You feel like there has to be a change. And if you don't make the change, what happens is frustration starts to set in and complacency and things. Success leaves clues, but also but when it's time to pivot, you get frustrated and also clues are there because you're like, I'm supposed to have done that. And so that moment came and I launched the company and wow, I thought everyone's going to want to certainly have help starting and growing their business. What I did not catch or think about that people would love to talk to you about starting and growing their business, but it was going to be my job to help them understand they needed to invest in that. It could no longer just be this coffee talk where we're like, yeah, tell me what you're doing. No, I needed you to see that this was a consultation. This was a paid service and you were going to get value. And as a result of that value, I needed to exchange your dollars for that value. And so that got really real because, when you're in the corporate world, for me, that direct deposit on the 15th, the last day of the month, it's pretty nifty right there. So when you're in the entrepreneurship space, in the beginning, it doesn't work like that. And so I remember those days so clearly. And it's to work with business owners when they're going to take that leap of faith. I go back to that and I'm like, I remember, the fear and the unknown and the uncertainty, and you're this one woman or one man show, but I would not have done it. I would have done some things differently, but I would have still done it because we always learn, we always grow and learn. But I would have still run the course. I would have still ran the course.
So you had, if I'm understanding it correctly, because this is so often the story, you had everything you needed, at least in terms of financial. We always want to grow and have dreams and all of that, which so often involve, hey, if I had more money, I could do this. Okay, that doesn't mean that you're happy, but it sounds like you were comfortable, and so you had to take that proverbial step back to go forward, whether that was mentally, financially,
all of that.
And you are a high energy woman. I've never known you to have low energy. So I'm guessing that took all of your energy, every bit of it.
Every bit of it, because you're so right. I went from what was comfortable. And so sometimes, the book we hear about From Good to Great, good can cause you to be in bondage. Sometimes there's some people who move because their back's against the wall. They lost everything. That wasn't my story. That wasn't my deal. So it's easier. I would think sometimes it's easier to do something when you don't have any other alternatives. I had some alternatives. I even had a CEO of a company that was saying, no, if you stay here, you'll become director and managing partner and it all sounded great. And that could have been a good journey, but I knew it was not my story. And so you're so right. I left and was like, whoa, no direct deposit. That's interesting. And so, oh, wow, no office manager answer the telephone. I'm that person. So it felt like, you're so right. It felt like I had moved backwards, to be very honest. But I will tell you, it did not take long to fast forward, but I did have to take that step. And it felt really uncomfortable. It was very scary at times. But the thing that was grounding to me is that I really knew I could help people.
Was there an aha moment for you along the way?
Yes, there was definitely an aha. One of the aha moments is that as much as you can think that you have good esteem, you're going to find out in entrepreneurship just really how good it is. And you're going to get an opportunity to really grow that. The aha moment was that I had to become my number one cheerleader at that point. Yes, I was married. Yes, I had children. Yes, I had a few clients. Yes, I had a ton of people who were pushing me and saying, oh, do it. I'll come to you. I'll support you. But the reality was, when the rubber met the road, and I was in that small little office, and it was just me, and I had to figure out how I was going to make that rent payment, and I had to believe and know it, and I had to be willing to I had to have grit. I had to be willing to think outside the box of what do I need to do to make this work, because reality of of having the dream of seeing it be successful, but walking through making sure it's successful takes a lot of time and energy, and doing the things that some don't want to do, and it's not easy. And so I remember in those days, I would get the business list. I'm going to date myself. The city of Kansas, Missouri would produce a list of new business owners from who applied for the license or people who reapplied. I would take that list and literally go door to door. Literally, I would get the list on Monday, and I'm not a salesperson. And so that's how it started. And I that aha was that, you know what, if you don't believe in yourself, no one else is. And I had to do the work, the behind the scenes, the internal work. I wouldn't have thought, oh, I'm going to start the business, I'm going to help people. No, doing all of that required me to help myself first and do some internal work. I cannot tell you the number of times I had to sit in front of a mirror and repeat to myself what my consultation fee was so that I could get comfortable saying that. Inside work's got to get done first.
Right. And this is that's the foundation of who you are. So all these years later, you're here, you're making an impact in so many people's lives in so many different ways. I think you're making an impact on your own life. And you have so much going on, as I mentioned. You talked about it being pieces of the pie. I could very much relate to that as well. How do the pieces of the pie shape up in your world for you? Where are you spending your time?
Oh, wow. So pieces of the pie right now. I always say it always comes back to educating, empowering, and inspiring. No matter what I'm doing, it always comes back to those three things. But certainly, wow, I'm 20 years in business now, and I'm still gaining credit. You can never stop learning. I just last year obtained my enrolled agent designation. Now, I've been in business 20 years. People were like, why do you need that? You've already done that. But guess what? It helps you to keep sharpening the saw. And then what that does is it aligns you in new relationships, new circles of things that you don't know, because you don't know what you don't know. We hear that all the time. You truly do not know what you don't know. And so that has been phenomenal. Going down taking that journey was another leap of faith, because again, you know what I've discovered, Joel? Every time you get ready to do something new, you almost have to step back a tad bit. Because I went to take that enrolled agent course. When I decided to take the exam, I knew I wanted to take a course. I go into the course, and there's people that hadn't been in business but 1 or 2 years, and I'm sitting there 20 years in the business, and I'm like, what in the world am I doing here? But something I had to say, just humble yourself, and learn. And so I got some great new relationships out of it, and as a result of passing the exam, I developed relationships with the instructor. And here's how your pie will work. You may be doing something for one thing. Well, there's an instructor. Remember, I had this speaking background. So things were breaking for them. And I remember now my speaker world is kicking in. I'm like, oh my gosh, his presentation is falling apart. Let me help him. And in the end, opportunity presented itself when I was doing one thing, but another part of my pie walked in, and he was like, you can come and help us. So I cannot say enough. Be willing to keep learning, be willing to stretch yourself, and stay evolving, because when we stop learning and getting information, it really will cause you to get stagnant.
Those pieces of the pie should never be siloed, and when they all can combine together, they just will, right? I mean, yes. they just start feeding off of each other.
They really do. They really do.
That's what I've seen too. Last question before I get to my baseball theme questions. When did the speaking bug happen? Was that more back from your corporate world and then carried over, or what's the timeline on that?
No, when I started the business, remember I was going out to business owners, knocking on the dock doors, talking to them. Eventually people started saying, hey, would you come and talk to my Avon group? Would you come and talk to my Mary Kay group? Would you come and talk to my Tupperware group? And so I'm just like, yeah, I'll talk to any group you got, because remember, I'm walking doors and talking to one person. I'm like, now I can talk to 10 people or 15 people or 25. And then it just started growing from there. And then one day I was talking to a church group, and a church had booked me to talk to their women's group about faith and finances and how to get their financial affairs in order and to own the power of the purse. And at the end, they came up and said, we just want to give you this token of appreciation, and gave me an envelope. And I looked at it and I was like, whoa, those are too many zeros. I'm like, no. Do you understand? They're going to hire me to help them start their business or grow their business, do their accounting, help with their payroll. I'm going to get paid for this. And she's like, but we pay our speakers, and you're a speaker. And I was like, well, I know I'm doing this because it's marketing. And so that is how it started. And so someone from that, after she gave me that envelope, After that, at that same event, someone said, "Could you come and talk to my church group?" And I was like, "Yeah." They're like, "What's your fee?" I'm like, "Well, I guess what's in this envelope is my fee," because I hadn't.
You got to start somewhere.
Yeah, like what they say is my fee. And so that's really how it launched out. And then, as you talked about at the beginning, National Speakers Association, I met a very beautiful lady, Mary Redmond, and she was like, "You've got to get connected with our organization. There are more people like you that are speakers, and you can help you to, this is where the best speakers get better." And I'm like, "Well, I don't know about the best, but I mean, I'll go to it because I don't think I'm the best." And so, and I started going to that event and to the organization, joined the organization, drunk the Kool-Aid, got all the way involved and got on the board and became the president. Learn what I didn't know. I was willing to go into a room and be uncomfortable. And then this whole world opened up that's outside, and that's been phenomenal.
Yeah, that's so awesome. I did not realize, I thought I was the only one that Mary put the hard recruit on to join National Speakers
Mary is the person that needs to have the recruiting of the Recruiter of the Decade award.
She's so beautiful and such a great support to me and so many others. And I just remember when I'd started my speaking business, not really knowing what I was doing. And, so I'm meeting everybody. I didn't know anybody. And she says to me, so we become friends, and, and she's critiquing and helping me and coaching me. And she's so good. And she said, "You need to join, you should join National Speakers Association." And I remember replying back to her and I said, "Is this really something I should do?" And she said, "I wouldn't have suggested it if it wasn't." And so I just remember that. And okay. And she was right. So anyway, just a shout out to the amazing Mary Redmond.
Yes.
As we get to my baseball themed questions, in your long and illustrious career or careers, what has been the biggest home run you've hit?
Wow. Home run has been, for me, has really been the fact, and it's so surreal that I was able to start something that started as a thought. And that was like, that'd be cool to do. And then I stepped out and did it. And now today, to see that this thought is actually giving revenue to other employees. Sometimes that's a little scary to me because I'm like, oh my God, you guys like trust me enough to think that I can do this and it's going to give you a paycheck and it's going to take care of your family. So that has been the biggest home run, to see the impact on the employees and then also the impact on the clients, because I've had clients that have started same thing with an idea, and now today they've got employees and they've got different locations, and that is just like, whoa, I planted a seed in that. I can't believe that. Sometimes it's a little bit, I know I'm a nerd, but it's unreal. And that is a home run, to see that something you did, something you thought about, impacted somebody in such a great way. It gave seed to other people beyond even them.
That by the way may sound nerdy. It's the least nerdiest thing ever. It's or if that's being a nerd, then sign me up. That's a good thing indeed. How about a swing and a miss along the way, and what did you learn from it?
Oh my God. Yep. Some swing and some misses. So one of my swing and miss was, as things are growing, and again, people are telling you, success leaves clues, but you also need to do homework. They were like, you need to expand and you need to open up additional locations outside of Kansas City. And so I was like, I'm going to do it. And so I opened up a location in Dallas, Texas. And so wow, what a swing and a miss. And so in the midst of that, I was thinking Kansas City. I'm like, I had an office downtown in Kansas City. I'll put an office downtown in Dallas, and this should work out, right? No, because Dallas is so massive and a lot of people do not go downtown. You can't just go to Dallas and like set up shop in one area and think that everyone's going to come to you. You've got to pick an area. And so I had an office in Dallas downtown, and I was meeting people in Raising Cane's all over the suburbs of Dallas. I was in Plano and Frisco, and I'm like, what is happening? Why are they not coming to this office? And so we closed that office very quickly. I tell people in entrepreneurship is about doing things quickly, making hard decisions. And even if it's a hard decision to have to terminate something and you see it's not working, you can't sit with it. And it wasn't working. I did probably 2 meetings out of that downtown office in the AT&T building. And the rest of them were at Raising Cane's and Starbucks. And so that was a swing and a miss from that, because I did not know what I didn't know. And Kansas City and Dallas have some similarities, but that 635 loop, if you know anything about it, people are not going downtown.
Well, there's just something to be said sometimes. Inherently, we always want to say what is next, what is more. And there are ways to get more without having to expand whatever that one thing is, right? I mean, for years that people say, well, you know, when are you leaving Kansas City to go to a bigger market? And I finally started telling people, I'm good here. This is where I want to be. And so just because everybody wants to think about, ourselves included, what's the next springboard, maybe there doesn't have to be that. Maybe there are other things that we can do, which as we have already talked about, you have enough things going on that you don't, maybe you don't have to go to Dallas and do it that way, right?
And that's so home run, Joel, because I ended up keeping those clients. I have many of them today virtually. Before virtual was popular, they were like, I'll just email you my items. We can meet, we can get it done. And so I was like, wow, I thought I had to travel all this way, set up an office, buy all the stuff. And no, I didn't have to do it that way. Others were doing it that way, and it's worked for some of them. And it was a great model. But for me, I did not have to do it that way. And I could still expand my reach, but I didn't have to do it that way. And sure, it didn't look like cool to say, oh, you know, I have all these offices everywhere. But, you know, what did I want to do? Be cool or be effective?
Yeah, that's right.
So effective it is.
Or nerdy, as you said before.
Yes,
whatever
absolutely.
it is. You would have been nerdy in Dallas too. That's okay. Compliment, absolute compliment. I'm with you on it. Final baseball theme question, small ball. What are the little things that add up to the big results for you?
Wow, little things that add up. Certainly, I would say my faith. Absolutely. And I say little things, but it is a big thing. But for me, you have to keep that in front of you all the time. You also have to remember what you stand for. Because in entrepreneurship, there's a lot of people that have great ideas and another big idea and another concept. And if you're like always chasing the shiny object, you're never going to move forward. So you have to know what you stand for. You have to understand what it is you're supposed to be doing. And so another small thing was always at the beginning of the year, kind of spending that time to meditate and align. What do I believe is the direction for me? So that when something came that was opposing, this was a small ball, but this has always kept me safe. I would give it a cool off period. So if somebody had said, you know, oh, I think you should do this. This would be great. I say, okay, let me table that. Let me let it cool off. And then let me come back to it and see if it sounds still as sexy and amazing as it did then. And then I assess, would this be in line with what I said I was supposed to do this year? Does this connect? And then be willing to say no, because you can start chasing bunnies and you get nowhere, and then you have to back up and come back to where you were at. And so those small balls, you know, faith, knowing what you stand for, understanding what you expect out of that year. But in order to know what you expect out of that, you got to give time at the beginning or the ending of the year to really kind of step back and look at the glass all the way and say, what is it we need to do with that? How do we sharpen this? How can I get better? And if you've taken the time to do that work, certainly if somebody comes up with something that's like far-fetched, you've got to question, is that really neat? No matter, and we talked about this earlier, Joel, you know, people can put a nice price tag to something and thinking that's the thing that will dangle a carrot for you. But then you have to be able to say, you know, that sounds great, but I don't know that that's for me. And be willing to, you can't be led all the way by the money. I'll say that. That can't be the only thing, because there has to be passion. There has to be expertise, something that causes you to go with it to do it. Just if money's the only leading object, I can tell you're going to burn out very quickly with that. So I don't care how much money is. If it's just money, you're going to burn out quickly. There's got to be another driving force that's involved. So those have been some of my small balls that turn into very big balls that keep me moving forward and stay grounded and help me to try to keep from getting off place. And then also mentors and peer groups. That's so powerful. You know, Joel, I love the conversations and the times we have to get to chat, because we're able to share some of our things that have worked, some of the things that we're like, man, I keep backing up on that. And that sharpens us when you walk away from that. And so nurturing those relationships. I love when you talk about, you know, circle of trust and the things you speak on, because we have to remember that those relationships are so valuable. So valuable.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. You're dead on. Absolutely. And I learn from you every time that I get energy from you, which is such a blessing to have people like that in our lives that help push us. Sometimes it's just reminders, right? And
yes.
And oh yeah, I knew that. It took Marquita to remind me, which is great. 4 final questions as we round the bases. The first one, you know, I always ask my guests for a fun fact. I swear I'm not making this up. This is the first time I've had a duplicate answer from a guest, but I had a guest that would have aired in February, Ebony Reed, amazing journalist, who talked about a passion of hers that also involves a fear or an inability. So you got the same one. Go for it. We all love, many of us love to be on a tropical island or a beach, but it comes with a caveat, right?
It does. Yes, I love to go out on the beach and walk into the ocean, but I cannot swim. Is that not crazy? And so when I go too far, I've got to get a friend. And I do need to learn and just tackle the swimming thing, but it's also good because now I have to trust this person I'm going out with. One, I got to figure out, can you swim? And then two, I got to go out there with you. And then I got to trust that you're not going to let me drown while we're out there, because I love to go out there, but I cannot swim. And so I have developed, here's what's funny, I've developed more close relationships as a result of that, because they're like, sure, I'll go out there with you. But then at the end, they're like, why can't you swim? You just love all this. So yes, and that's where I get fuel at, the beach, the sun, and the whole ocean, and cannot swim. Not any. That water comes over my head, and it's a big problem.
We got to work on that, but don't avoid the beach. That's for sure. It is so peaceful. Second question, more serious, and go wherever you want or don't. I don't mean to push you on anything, but you talk about the life change within your business. You had a personal life change too, and a second start, which I know is a really beautiful thing, which I think you give a lot of people hope too. I mean, it's one thing to say, hey, career change, I found all this purpose. It's another thing to have something so personal and love and have to restart again and figure out a way to get back up. And I know that you went through that in the worst of ways, and maybe in the end, the best of ways too.
Yeah, wow, that was another one, man. That was probably like one of those gut-wrenching kicks that you just don't expect. My late husband unexpectedly passed away. We were married for 23 years, and here's the fun, when you got these pies and these different scopes of businesses, I tell business owners all the time, you're not just in business, your family's in business with you. And so he was the product inventory person, the logistics person to make sure stuff arrived. In those days, you need a product to be to the venue. He made sure the product got there, vendor booths got set up, the amazing backdrops was done, and so many other things. Husband, a father to the kids, and just helped in this core business. And so for him to pass so unexpectedly, and it was so crazy. He passed in May, and I was facing some of my most high profile speaking engagements in July of that year. And I was just like, what in the world? And there was a part for me that just said, this is over. I can't do this. There's no way I can continue on without him. I can't do this. There's no way I can put the pieces together. It felt like the whole pie fell down on the floor and just crumbled to pieces for me. Then I had these children that I needed to help grieve, and I needed to figure out at some point how I was going to grieve. It felt massive. And at that time, people would say, you're going to make it. And I thought to myself, you are crazy. There's no making it beyond this. That sounds good. And I will tell you that when you're in the speaker world and empowerment, your kids believe you start drinking your Kool-Aid too. And so one of my youngest daughter, when we got past May and we rallied together, and they came back from school because summer was out. They were both in college, and the older kids were here locally in town. And so we took that May and just had to sit with what happened. And friends were, oh my gosh, friends and NSA members were so there loving and support through May and June. And then my youngest said, okay, July's coming. We've been planning for this. We got product in the basement. What are we doing? And I'm like, yeah, we're probably giving these people their checks back and their deposits, because there's no way we're going to be able to do that. And she says, so I guess we finally found an excuse that's big. You said there were no excuses, because my big event was, my signature line was, there's no excuses, only results. So she said, so we finally bumped into an excuse, huh? I was like, yeah, we sure did. Yeah, we did. It's a big excuse. And she's like, okay, well, I know we got everything. We can go and we can do this. And we'll go with you. We'll just pack up and we'll all go for July. And she's like, but if you want to believe the excuse. And I'm like, hey, who are you? Stop talking to me like that. But you need sometimes your family to come back and tell you and make you dream again and think again and believe in. So I was like, if she can tell me this, then I can do it. And so I had also offered the girls that were in college, my two daughters were in college, I'd offered them a gap year. I said, you know what? Hey, you can skip. Whatever, everyone gets a pass. We're going to all do whatever we feel we need to do, because self-care is the number one thing. And she said, nope, I'm going back to class. What are you going to do? I was like, I mean, I guess, I don't know, I'm going to hang out here in sweatpants. And so she convinced me. I said yes. And I cannot tell you, people were so, I was like, how? Because in the speaker world, you can't really fake it on stage that you're okay. When people say you're okay, you can't, you got to be, when you're coming from an authentic place, you can't just say you're okay. You need to be okay. So I did the work. I did the grief work. I was going to, when I'm in something, I'm all in. I went to grief therapy. I went to individual grief therapy. I went to group grief therapy. I had the backpack and the notepad. And so I did the work in the rest of June, and it was going to be an ongoing work. It's now 3 years. I'm still doing the work, truth be told. And so we packed up and we did July, and I was scared, and audience members knew my story, and people were so very kind. And I would say, I don't know what you're going to get. You're going to get some information and you may get some tears, but we will work through this. And I did that. That big step was really critical for me to do at that time. And it was the fuel to keep me pushing forward. And eventually the next daughter was in my face and was like, okay, so, when are you going to move on with your life? When are you going to get out of this house and start doing something but working? Like go out to a movie with someone. I'm like, what are you talking about? Going on a date. And I'm like, a date. And so eventually, I listened to that daughter. So my kids, you can tell, have a special place in my heart, as all of ours do. And long story short, I did that and connected and met someone, and he lived in Connecticut, and he thought he would never leave East Coast. And I was like, well, you come here, you're going to see my world. And he realized, he was like, yeah, you can't leave here. And so he relocated here. We got married, and Love Again is amazing. It's different. There's, I have a group of widows that I talk to, because once you experience something, you never walk away from that feeling. Just like the feeling we talked about of somebody, you being a solution for someone, that same thing. And so I support widows, and not always am I the one I'm not on the get remarried kick, but I am on the move forward, not moving on, but moving forward with your life. And so it's been amazing. I am grateful. We're still on a journey. I always say healing is not a destination, it's a journey. And there can be moments at any time, but I've learned so much as a result of it. And I always say, I'm not just playing for one no more, I'm playing for another. And so, because I got to do those things he would have wanted me to do.
It's a beautiful story. And I think one that could provide so many others hope, as others provided you that hope, and will continue to as well, to know that it doesn't have to be the end, that
Yeah.
there are other steps forward in the journey, as you say. Third question will be more a little bit lighter, I think, and something you and I have in common. In the midst of all of this, you also do a lot of television. How much do you enjoy that for one of the local TV stations here in Kansas City? You're one of the experts.
Yeah. So on 4, I'm the business coach, and on Channel 5, the Money Matters girl. And so just yesterday, I had an awesome opportunity to go on 41. Had not been on 41, and so was able to do some tax tips on 41. Those have been the ahas. Accountants are typically, I've kind of broken the mold on this accountant things. Accountants typically like the numbers behind the scenes, that kind of thing. That's where the speaker world evolved. And so I had no idea. Again, remember, piece of the pie. It was another way to get information out, to share, educate, inspire, empower. And so that's been an aha. That door only opened as a result of somebody referring me, giving my name to KCTV5 for women who were break through the glass ceiling. And they did a feature story on me. And then I was bold enough to say, hey, I liked how that felt. That was amazing. Can we do some more of that? And then I learned the art of pitching yourself in media, and it just went on from there. And so that's been amazing. That is another piece of the pie that was definitely an aha. I did not know, there was no playbook for that, but it opened power of connection and power of opportunity. I can't say enough about the power of opportunity. We have to, in our day, we have to expect. Sometimes we just go about the day and we're just like, oh, today's the day, just to do what I'm supposed to do, what's on my agenda, what's on my iPad, what's on my planner, what's on my Outlook. But you've got to say, what about an aha in the day? What about an opportunity that you may not have known? I mean, yesterday I did the same thing. I woke up and had no media on schedule for yesterday. No media. By the end of the day, radio show and 41 I did, just because I was able to be in the place to say yes to the opportunity. So yeah, that's the fun stuff.
You never know. Okay, so we'll wrap it up with this, the final question. And for anyone that wants to learn more about 5-Star Tax, you can go to the website, fstkc.com. There's always a million pieces of advice going on, but at this time of year, tax season or whatever time, give me one little tidbit, two little tidbits that the layman like myself forgets.
All right. So right now, this year, it's going to be really important that if any taxpayers that received the third stimulus or the advanced child tax credit, there are letters coming out from the Internal Revenue Service. And so you need to open those letters because they're not bad letters. They're informational letters because the IRS, they learned from the last year where people had to try to remember how much they got for stimulus 1 or 2, or if they got it. So they said, we're going to send a recap, a summary of what we show that you got. And so it's important for you to open that letter. It's important for you to cross-check. Did you receive what they're saying that you received? Because that has to match on the return. If it doesn't, if you don't report what they're saying, then it's going to delay your return by months. So it's important and if there are errors on it, then there's ways that you can track that down. You can put a trace to figure out you didn't get the payment, but they show the payment went out. Maybe your address changed. Maybe your bank account changed. Maybe they put it on in a different account than what you thought it went on. So there's some research steps you want to do. But that is critical for those who receive that because it's going to cause delays. If that does not match what the IRS says, your return instantly gets pulled and put in a queue that we have no idea when that's going to get worked. And so it could be months, like not even this tax season, before they get to it. So it's important for you to get those letters. And if you lose the letter by chance, you can go to the IRS website, www.irs.gov, to request another copy of that letter. So that's really going to be critical.
Great advice. For more on Marquita, you got the IRS address there, but fstkc.com. Marquita, this has been great, as I knew it would be from beginning to end. I appreciate your energy always. I'm sure you have some down moments. I just haven't seen them in terms of being bubbly and high energy and impactful. So keep doing that, of course. I'm grateful for your friendship, your mentorship, and for your time today. Thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you, Joel. I'm totally grateful. And I love the theme music on this show. Totally amazing. I love it. I love it. So thank you for all you do and the opportunities you provide for so many people to share their story and their message. So we salute you, Joel, because you're amazing.
Thank you, Marquita. Marquita Miller-Joshua, and she just mentioned the music of AY, so he will take us out.